Good, happy Sunday evening, April 10, 2022. I'm Riley King. Welcome to this Sunday evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Let's get started right now. First up, police investigate scene outside New Hampshire State House. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Qué buena casa de verbo. Vamos. Now I'm here. Now you're here.
Well, Monica, Mike, Concord police are remaining tight-lipped at this point as they are still investigating what exactly happened here. But a witness tells News 9 that she heard a gunshot around 1:20 this afternoon. When she looked out of her store's window, she saw a group of men fighting in the middle of Park Street, just near the intersection of Main Street, right in front of the State House. Now, she says those men were fighting for a few minutes before they all fled the scene on motorcycles. Concord police arrived shortly after that and blocked off Park Street as well as parts of Main Street, searching for any evidence. Now, that witness tells us that she did not believe anyone was shot, but that it was a scary sight.
That was my initial thing, was coming over to lock the door, just because you don't know, like, if somebody's running, if they're going to come in your store or not. But yeah, then I could see that it was across the street from me, so it was kind of far enough away that I felt comfortable kind of at least observing and making sure, you know, is there anyone in the store with me? And at that time there wasn't, so it was kind of safe for everyone else.
And Concord police just reopened Park Street here behind us about 15 minutes ago. Now, that witness tells us that one person may have been injured in that fight, although that person also fled the scene on a motorcycle. Again, we have calls out to police. We're going to continue digging on this. We'll bring you the latest details online and on air. But for right now, live in Concord, Scott Cook, WMUR News.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. One man dead after Derry officer-involved shooting. One man is dead after an officer-involved shooting Saturday afternoon in Derry. Initial reports say an armed man fired shots at a neighbor with a shotgun around 2:15 in the afternoon in the area of Old Coach Road and 28 Bypass. When police arrived, 3 Derry officers fired their weapons. 43-year-old Christopher Koppel, a man who lives in the neighborhood, was shot during the altercation. According to the Department of Justice, Koppel was armed with a shotgun. The AG's office says they do not believe and do not have anyone in custody. None of the Derry officers had body cams, but authorities are reviewing dash cam footage and audio from police cruisers. An autopsy is scheduled to take place Sunday morning to determine Koppel's official cause of death. New Hampshire Army National Guard members injured in Iraq receives Purple Heart. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Hey neighbor, together. We've got this with residential lenders who make decisions locally and mortgage and home equity solutions just right for you. Get to know your local banker. Get to know Profile Bank. Profilebank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Tonight, honoring New Hampshire Army National Guard members who were injured in Iraq. They received the Purple Heart at a ceremony in Concord this afternoon. The soldiers are from Charlie Company, 3rd Battalion of the 238th Aviation Regiment in Concord. They were injured in January of 2020 when a barrage of tactical ballistic missiles from Iran struck Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq.
You demonstrated leadership, teamwork, and never abandoning your mission before, during, or after the strikes.
Members of New Hampshire's congressional delegation also attended today's ceremony to thank the soldiers for their service.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Steps taken to protect President Joe Biden from COVID-19. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
What if positive change was only one design away? Some say design is beyond most people's reach. We say it's already in your hands. So, what will you design today?
In Washington, at least 20 lawmakers and officials have tested positive for COVID in the last week. Despite the numbers, President Biden is going ahead with a packed schedule this coming week. ABC's Mary Alice Parks is in Wilmington, Delaware, and joins us with more. Mary Alice, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, the White House facing a lot of tough questions about its COVID protocols this week with that run of high-profile positive cases out of Washington. But so far, the White House says they plan to stay the course. So the West Wing is trying to walk this careful line. They're trying to both say that, of course, they take these precautions to keep the president safe, like regularly testing those around him. But they say that it is possible he might still get infected. You know, most Americans are largely trying to get back to some kind of normal, and they say so is the president. He's about 10 days out from his latest booster, his second booster. And yesterday we did see glimpses of him out and about outside in a mask more than we have recently. Now this last week, like you said, 20 D.C. leaders tested positive, including 3 of the president's cabinet secretaries, several lawmakers, and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Now the White House insisting that the president's interactions with Pelosi this week were short and brief, despite those hugs and kisses that we saw. And one of the most surprising moves this week was actually with the vice president. A senior member of her staff tested positive. The White House acknowledged that that was a close contact, but then she went maskless there in the Senate chamber for that historic vote of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. The White House said that the vice president had consulted with her doctors and had tested negative. At this point, the White House says they will continue to test the president regularly, a few times a week, but that he plans to travel a lot this month, including to Iowa and North Carolina this week. All
right, Mary Alice, thanks. And let's bring in ABC News political director Rick Klein. Rick, good morning. It's always great to have you. So let's start right there with that COVID outbreak among top officials in Washington. Still President Biden pushing forward, maintaining his public schedule. We heard the criticism there. Is the White House sending an effective message here about living with the pandemic?
With this hits incredibly close to the president and to most of official Washington. And it cuts to the heart of what President Biden has tried to say about COVID all along, that you need to be following the protocols. You also need to make sure that you're vaccinated and boosted. And if you are vaccinated and boosted, the message here is that the risk of a serious illness is very, very low. And that's why you see President Biden engaging in that schedule. He does not want to backslide in terms of restrictions or masks or anything else any more than most Americans do. He wants to be on the other side of COVID, and he wants to send that message in what he does publicly. But that means that every time he appears out in public or anyone around him appears, it's going to be heavily, heavily scrutinized. And I do think, as Mary Alice pointed out, that significant difference in messaging for them to acknowledge it's possible he could get COVID, and the hope is it wouldn't be a serious case.
Yeah, there's the science, there's also the optics that they have to deal with as well. I do want to turn, though, to some reporting you've been working on about former President Trump and his influence on future elections, his endorsements, whether he's still a kingmaker in the Republican Party. That's going to be tested very soon.
Yeah, with just last night, President Trump in North Carolina alongside Madison Cawthorn, the embattled congressman who's lost the support of much of his party, in addition to some of his other endorsees. Also last night, he endorsed Dr. Mehmet Oz in the Senate race in Pennsylvania. Dr. Oz, of course, a longtime television celebrity close to Trump. But here's the thing. These are big, bold bets that might backfire. John Carl and I have been talking to a range of Republicans who are somewhat mystified by some of these choices. They say that Trump and his influence is is going to be on the line in these primaries. And starting next month, you've got a series of high-profile contests. If Trump's choices lose, I think you're looking at a much different portrait of the Republican Party.
And so much on the line for both parties in this midterm election year. Rick Klein, always a pleasure. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. And tune into This Week later on this morning. Jonathan Karl will go one-on-one with White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan for the latest developments in Ukraine. Plus, as COVID cases rise again in some parts of the country, John has an exclusive interview with Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Well, hey there, GMA fans.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Thank you for tuning in and watching this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Good night and goodbye, everyone.